Right, I'm going to make one of the most incredible soups ever. And we've got a whole head of Savoy cabbage there. We've got a big handful of cavolo nero and a big handful of red and green curly kale. And I've cooked that in 2 litres of chicken stock, but you could do veggie stock if you want. So that's been boiling for about 5 minutes. And then bigging up Mr. Bread, stale bread, just grilled on a griddle pan, or you could even roast it in the oven if you wanted to. A whole load, big stack of the bread like that. And when you get your bread like this, while it's hot, just get a piece of garlic and give it 2 rubs, and you'd be amazed at how much flavour that transmits. But there's a perfume of garlic there, which is lovely. I've got a tray in the oven, but what I want to do, get my tray here. I'm going to get 1 tin of about 14 anchovy fillets. Pour the oil in here first. Then I want about 12 rashers of nice pancetta. So just lay it in here. Normally I do this on a gas hob, but I'm outside. So I'm going to cover this tray with the bacon, and I'm going to put it back in the oven just to render and go crispy. But before I do that, these anchovy fillets here, oh, be careful when you take these off. Shake them out there. Just put the anchovies out and about, finding things out. And let's roast these babies up. Pop it back in the oven. Now, over here, I've got 2 cheeses. Fontina, which is a wonderful cheese. It's quite mild in flavour, but it has the most incredible melting qualities. It's all stringy and light and incredible. And then I've got good old Parmesan there, just for good flavour. I want 200 grams of Fontina, about 150 grams of Parmesan. Get this out of the way. And then, check this, you can hear it sizzling. Look at that. No time at all. Just have a look at it. You can see the anchovies have totally melted into nothing. The bacon's nice and crisp. At this point, get your greens straight in there. Now, I'm just literally coating it in all this lovely gear. Even if you're just serving this as a, veg dish, this is a fantastic way to do it. I'm cooking this in a casserole type pan, something of that ilk and that size. Get 4 bits or enough stale toasted bread to cover the bottom. And then we go, nice mixture of greens here. And we've got 1 whole Savoy cabbage, and we've got cavolo nero, and we've got some kale, purple and green, and then we put our cheese. And then I put a nice sprinkling of the Fontina and a sprinkling of the Parmesan. And this is a great opportunity to have a little drizzly up of quality extra virgin olive oil. All right, so that goes there. A bit more bread on top. So it's like a lasagna, but instead of using pasta and mincemeat, we're using nice garlic rub bread. Again, Savoy cabbage, in and around. You can chop this cabbage up if you want, but the way I've had it has always been quite crude. Fontina and a sprinkling of the Parmesan. And then we go more bread, cabbage. You can tear it up a bit if you want to. Cheese. Let's have a little bit more Fontina. Parmesan. Here we go. Last one on top. I'm going to use untoasted bread for this part. You can kind of push down on it like this, give it a bit of pressure. Okay, let's taste the stock. Give it a stir. It's gone a bit dark because you cooked the cabbage in it, but at least it's got the flavour. Pour this in there. There you go. And then what I'll do, just a tiny bit of cheese. There we go. That final bit of Parmesan. And then good lug of extra virgin olive oil. Nice sprinkling of pepper. At this point, if you want, you can just push this all into each other. Right, and as that cooks, that's going to cook for about 40 minutes at about 180 Celsius, 350 Fahrenheit. And what will happen is it'll go crunchy and golden on top, and then the water will just sort of suck into all the bread and the flavours are all mixed up and it'll be delicious. So I'm just going to put that at the back of the oven, give it about 40 minutes. Just look at that, fantastic. And you can see it's like a cross between like a bread and butter pudding and a French onion soup. Most of that water's cooked into the bread now. It's at about 35, 40 minutes. And if it gets too much colour, you know, you can put a bit of tin foil over the top, but look at that. Absolutely lovely. So put that there. Right, so one of the classic things to go with this is a sage butter. So I'm just going to get a nice big knob of butter straight in there. And then straight in with some sage leaves. Just take the leaves off. And you want to melt that butter. Just toss the sage in there. I'm going to put it straight back in the oven. That will take 30 seconds, 40 seconds to make that raw sage leaf go to being like snappy crisp and really meaty in flavour. Now let's plate these little darlings up. Don't go think this is going to be some kind of creamy soup or brothy soup. Don't go there. This is a bread soup. This is an Italian soup with attitude. I'm literally going to take a nice big clunk of this. Look at that. Beautiful. Get some of this. Lovely dark colour. Bit more. Check the sage. Right, and then all you do, you know, while the butter's nice and brown, but not dark, not black, just put the sage leaves around, a little bit of that butter, and a little grating of Parmesan. And that's it. Look at that. Oh my Lord, that is so good. Right, so I'm going to do a beautiful pumpkin soup. You could use any good dense pumpkin you like. I'm using the Musc de Provence. You could use the onion squash, the butternut squash, whatever you feel might be appropriate. Give it a bash. Slice this up into big old flabs. Push that just to one side. Here I've got some basic soup ingredients. Couple of carrots, couple of garlic cloves, couple of onions, couple of celery sticks. And that is the base to the soup. I want to roughly chop the celery because I'm going to puree this soup. I'm going to whiz it up with a hand blender so it's nice and silky. So at the end of the day, if it's a little bit chunky, it really doesn't matter. Onion, cut it in half. Just roughly slice it again. I'm using the red onion because I just prefer the flavour of them, but you know, you can use white ones if you want. So in this pan, I'm going to pour some olive oil and in with the onions and celery. Forget that over there, that will start sweating off. Woo-hoo-hoo. So with the carrots, do exactly the same, slice them up, and then with the garlic, run your knife through it like that. In with the carrots and the garlic. And while we're here, rosemary, just the nice little fine leaves. A little pinch of salt and pepper. Give it a shake. Straight back on the heat again. So while that's ticking away, I want to just chop these pumpkin pieces into chunks. Now, I want about 3 kilos. And I'm going to cook it today in a pressure cooker. You can do it in a pan, of course you can. And you'd want to simmer it with chicken stock for half an hour, 40 minutes. But this way, with a pressure cooker, so quick. Like that. So throw it all in to this base vegetables. And once you've got the squash in there, get it back over to the heat, pour in 2 litres of chicken stock. Just fill it up to about 1 inch from the top. With the pressure cooker, I mean, so far it looks like a normal pan, you could put a lid on top. With this one, you've got a special lid. Press the button, it will clutch onto it, it will keep all the boiling moisture in, so the pressure will get higher and higher and higher, which basically means that it pushes flavour into things and it cooks things twice, 3 times as quick. Now, while this is coming to the boil, I want to have a little bit of a rework on kind of a crouton, really. So I'm going to go much more Italian-styly. I want a slice of the ciabatta, like that. I've got a pan here that's been heating up. A little bit of olive oil in the pan, okay. And I'm just going to pick some sage. Pick the sage leaves in. 40 seconds. The room starts to smell incredible. Give them a good old fry up. As soon as you think they've gone crispy and they go a slightly darker green colour, bring it over here. Push it off one side, just like that, onto the board, like that. Now, in here, you've got left some olive oil, right? But it will taste incredible now. So then you can get your ciabatta, turn it around in the oil, take it out. Turn it around in the oil, take it out. Right, so that's going to flavour your toast. Get rid of the oil. I'm going to put that back on the heat. And then while this is here, I want to get some Parmesan. And I'm going to grate it. And that will stick to the oil and stick to the bread. And then you can kind of pat it down. And then turn it over. Pat. And once you've done that, then we can put this back into the pan dry. Like a minute or so, and it will just go golden on both sides. And you can see this is boiling now. So once the toast has been in there a little bit, you can turn them round. Just turn it over. Lovely colour. You can see how the cheese is just cooked into the bread and it's toasted all at the same time. It's like croutons with a bit of attitude, you know. This soup has had about 6 minutes boiling. Just going to release the steam. Let's get a nice blender. Plug it in. There you go. Look at that. So we check if the squash is cooked. There you go. Look, completely obliterated like that. Fantastic. Soup in 6 minutes. Waz it up. You can see it going from being chunky and brothy to little bits of silkiness coming up. Will you have a little taste? Needs work. Seasoning, salt and pepper. And then I'll give it another waz. Taste again. Tiny little bit more. And that is an incredible soup. Really, really good. Really pleased with that. And then to serve it, in a nice bowl, put a crostini at the middle, push it down, right? And then you can put one sticking out like that. Just pour it in there, in the middle. And that, people are going to go crazy over those croutons. They're going to fight over them, so you might as well make sure you do double. And look at the colour of that beautiful soup. And that soup, that will soak in to the crostini. And then to finish it, the lovely crispy sage and a nice bit of good quality extra virgin olive oil. Nice. I'm going to do a fantastic meat dish, bigging up all of my peppers. I'm using pork shoulder here, it's off the bone. This is a great cut of meat because it's good value. I've got 2 kilos there. Just score it like that, and you can score down to the meat like that, and then that way. I'm just going to season it up with salt, pepper. Pick it up, I'm going to put it straight into the old pan. Now, skin side down first because I want to render the fat out. You can put a little bit of olive oil in there if you want to just help it along. So you want about 700 grams-ish of nice peppers, and I'm not talking about heat or chilies, I'm talking about lovely, fruity, incredible peppers. Take the ends off. Take out the seeds. Don't waste this bit, peel it off. It's all good stuff. Now, once you've got all the seeds out, gather them all up. And now what I want to do, in no particular order, is just slice up as soon as you probably can, but don't be too worried about it. So chop these peppers up, put them over here. Now let's have a look at this pork. Look at that beautiful colour. Put this back out here. In with the peppers. Wonderful colours. In with 2 heaped dessert spoons of paprika. And I think this is really interesting, the way that you can use the fresh and dried, a good pinch of salt, bit of pepper, and then spice-wise, I'm using caraway seeds here, just 2 teaspoons. I'll put that in the flavour shaker, or you could use a pestle and mortar, straight in, just crack it. So once you've done that, in with the caraway seeds. So I've got these beautiful jarred peppers here. The thing I love about this is that if I was going to blacken this amount of peppers, it takes a bit of time, and if you're lazy, and we all can be, this is good. Chop it up, in with the peppers, like that. Onions, I want 2 onions, red onions, peeled and in half. I'm just going to finely slice these. In with the onions. From the herb department, marjoram or oregano. So just pull it off the stalks, like that. Get the marjoram in. I'm going to pour in a tin of tomatoes. Not a classic ingredient, but it does give it a richness. So big flavours. Perfect for this time of year. Weather's closing in, you want something to warm your cockles. Right. Shoulder, push it right to the bottom, and then try and make a deal of pulling these peppers in and around this pork, smearing it over the top, and it's all going to cook together. And then you could use stock, but actually I'm just going to use water. I just want to cover it. And then vinegar, very important, about 4 tablespoons of good red wine vinegar to give it that twang. Lid on top, bring it to the boil, and then I'm going to put that in an oven for about 2.5 hours, 3 hours at 180 Celsius, 350 Fahrenheit. And like the only time you know when it's cooked is when you can get 2 forks and pull away the meat. And if it's just like sticky and gorgeous and moirish and just comes away easily, rock and roll. If it's not, back in the oven and just be patient. Goulash has had 2.5, 2 3/4 hours. I've put some rice on, some basmati long grain rice into some salted boiling water. 10 minutes of boiling. I'm going to drain this little baby over here. I just want a plain, nice white rice. Catch some of that water. Just about half a pint of water in the bottom. Keep the heat on. Cover it with tin foil, or in this case, a plate. That'll steam, that'll go lovely and light. And, you know, I like rice just plain like that because, let's be honest, we have got one of the most incredible stews. And the whole room smells incredible. Yeah! Let's have a look. Look at that. Oh, look at that. You can put your finger straight through it. Ah, hot. Let's have a little look. Oh, yeah. That's brilliant. Let's try and mix this up. It should just fall apart. That is how you know you've got a wonderfully cooked bit of meat. Now, at this point, it doesn't matter how you follow the recipe, what ingredients you use, you've got a taste now and balance. So, Peppers there, sweetness. There's a little bit of a hum there of the caraway. It's fantastic. So to serve it, I'll put it in one of these. Help yourself, middle of the table. It's a real stew with personality. Hungarian style-y. I just love it. One more. Happy days, look at that. Wow. And then with the rice, and there's something lovely about the nuttiness of simply cooked rice, but I'm not happy yet. I want to bring an element of freshness to that really robust flavours. So I've got some sour cream, I've got some parsley, handful of parsley. I want my knife. I'm going to chop this little fella here up. I'm going to put most of it in there. Lemon zest. I'm not going to use lemon juice, just lemon zest. Delicious, really, really good. Stir it up, like that. You can get a nice little wodge of this in here. Serve that at the table as well, and then as your guests come around the table, get another big old ladle of that and just let it melt its way around. It's a real dish of attitude, that one. I like that. I'm going to make a really nice, everyone's happy kind of meal, right? And I've got celeriac from the garden, I've got some nice potatoes. I'm going to do a potato and celeriac al forno, kind of like a simpler version of a dauphinoise. So what I want to do is slice this up into quarters, and then once I've done that, slice them up into like centimetre discs, like that. Then I'll get my spuds over here, just slice these little tigers up, same thickness as a celeriac, just under a centimetre actually. Lovely. So once you've got the potatoes cut, get them in with the celeriac, and then some herbage in here. I'm using sage. I've got 50% potatoes there, 50% celeriac. You could swap celeriac for parsnips, you could swap it for Jerusalem artichokes, you know, but if you keep the 50% potato in there, you get a good mix of good old potato dish / something a bit interesting. So I want a couple of cloves of garlic, and there's something about garlic, cream and cheese that is incredible. I don't know what happens, but when it cooks together, it's just beautiful. Like that, in it goes. And then I've got a nice big handful of Parmesan, and then some double cream, about half a pint of double cream, half a pint of milk, good pinch of salt and pepper, and what I'm going to do is just get in there and give it a little mix up. Look at that. Just layer up spuds, celeriac. They've all been coated, and you can just drop them in, get it in there. On this last layer, you can get potatoes and you can kind of rack them up nicely and fan them out. And all I'm going to do now is get this cream and milk, Parmesan, salt, pepper, sage, great combination, you know, really, really good. So, nice bit of cheese on top, be quite generous, and it will start to taste fantastic. And then, what I'm going to do now, to make sure that happens quickly and efficiently, put this over, wrap the little tiger up, and then it's all going to cook in there, all nice and tight, all the lovely flavours, all bubbling away. About half an hour, 180, 350 Fahrenheit. So that's that bit. And then with venison, in the restaurant, we cannot sell enough venison. Try it, give it a go. So I want to show you a nice way to get this little darling flavoured up. So I'm just going to put this to the side. I want 10 juniper berries. Now, juniper berries, classic flavouring for venison. It's actually juniper berries that they make gin out of. So you've got that fantastic flavour, brilliant with dark meat. So what I'm going to do is I want about 10 here. That'll do. And I'm just going to get my knife, a couple more, get my knife and I'm just going to crush it. And if you give them a good old squash up, it's so generous. I want a bit of lemon and a bit of tonic water. Some salt goes in there, plenty of it, enough to season that meat. Some pepper, pepper loves dark meat. Then I've got rosemary. Rosemary, very good friends with beef, equally good friends with Mr. Venison. Pull it all off. And then let's just chop this all together. So just chop this up. So once I've chopped that up, As soon as I've done that, I'm going to scatter this like that. I'm going to rub this beautiful little thing with oil. Rub it over. Pretend you're getting a massage. Yes, mother. And on the other side. And then we can begin to roll it. So just roll it over like that. And then like that. And there you've got a beautifully encrusted loin of venison. I've got a pan in the oven, or you could just heat a pan up on a hob until it's nice and hot. And then I want to get a bit of olive oil happening in the pan, in with the venison. It's got salt, it's got pepper, it's got herbage happening in there. Nice and hot, get it going. Sear it off, like that. While I'm in here, might as well chuck in a few bits of herbs and then garlic cloves. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to roast this off for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then what I'm going to do is rest it, and I'm going to show you a really quick sauce. So I cooked this venison for about 20 minutes in the end. And then this little beauty here, and let's be honest, get a potato dish right in life, and it's going to be one hell of a humdinger of a dish. So you can see now how important this tin foil was. If I'd have just put it in without the tin foil, it would have been black by now. So what I want to do now is just put a little bit more Parmesan on top. You can be reasonably generous. And we're going to put that into gratinate now. So in a hot oven, 5 minutes. So a bit of Parmesan on top of that, smack bang in the oven. We've got sexy old potatoes, lovely. And then this here, venison. It's shrunk a bit, just turn the meat over in the juices, take it out, put it on there to rest. And then as far as this pan here is concerned, just squeeze it up. Don't worry about the skins. You've got the flavour of the rosemary, the sage, and all the lovely pan juices. So what I want to do now is mix it up, and then I'm going to pop it back in the oven. Now, in translation, in real life, I fork up the garlic and I put it on a gas hob. But I ain't got a gas hob, I've just got an oven, so I put it back in the oven. But essentially, heat underneath the pan, heaty, right? Red wine. Not cheap old rubbish, get something half decent. Give 1 glass of it to your meal, I think it deserves it. In there. So what I need to do now is we've got the wine, we've got all the goodness. I need to bring that together, and I need a nice knob of butter. Like this, for 4 people, not too bad. Probably divided by 4, it's what you put on a bit of bread when you're in a restaurant. Straight in. Monty O'Byrne means to shake in, to agitate. Let the butter melt into it, and you'll have a really fantastic sauce. So look at this potato dish. You put this down in the middle of a table, and you'll make a couple of new friends. That is proper cooking, that is. Exciting stuff. Get the venison, nice sharp knife, centimetre slices. Look at the colour. That's what I want it blushing. You can go rarer if you want, but look at that. But to get a beautiful bit of venison like that, just blushing in the middle, delicious. That's the way my missus likes it. Personally, I like it a little bit rare, actually. Pick that up. Oh, my lordy lord. I've got the juice on this board, which I'm going to pour on that plate. Right, don't need that. Look at this. And then I want to get this potato dish, this wonderful potato and celeriac al forno. Get a big old spoon of it. Yes. Look at that. All this juice from the plate can go into the sauce. Get a little sieve. And there, look at this. Non-fussy, simple. And that is the essence of what was cooking anyway. There's no flour in it. There's no vegetables in it. And then serve that with a nice bottle of good Italian Chianti or something like that. Rock and roll, look at that. So I'm going to make this beautiful mushroom risotto, slightly different twist on the tail. So sofrito is the base. It's chopped white onions and a little bit of celery. And then I want to add the risotto rice. I'm using arborio rice. You can use canaroli, a handful per person. That's about right. Give it a little stir in. I reckon that'll be enough for sort of 2-3 people in there. And the rice will suck up all that lovely flavour there. Now, while that's doing that, here I've got some dried porcini. And my God, you know, when it's fresh, it's light and delicate and nutty. When it's dried, it's meaty and steaky, and it's like, wow, slightly smoky. So what I'm going to do is just get a bit of my stock. Stock is probably 50% of any risotto. So go for a vegetarian or a chicken organic stock cube. Make your own after a roast dinner. So we need to rehydrate these little babies. So I'm just going to give those a couple of minutes. Now, you can hear over here, the rice is sounding a little hot. And what I'm going to do is, you could use white wine at this stage, but I'm going to use vermouth, which is absolutely fantastic. So about a good shot of vermouth per person. You know, all the alcohol will cook away, but what you'll be left with is this fantastic perfume. So as soon as that's gone in, we stop the frying and we want to go into making risotto mode. Adding small ladles of stock every minute or so and giving it a little stir up, okay? So there's a little bit of a technique to it. Starting to get nice and creamy. Literally after a minute, hot, right? Beautiful porcini. And look in there. I mean, already just chicken stock and dried mushroom taste is incredible. If you're not feeling very well, have a little sip of that. In with the mushroom stock and stop right at the end. And very often you just get a little bit of sand and stuff. So never put the last bit in. So take that off. So already mushrooms has introduced itself to the risotto and benefit from that beautiful flavour. Now look, here on the board, just chop them up like this. And you can distribute the flavour everywhere and then straight in every last bit. And you know what? Dry porcini is never cheap, but a little bit goes a long, long way. So in with that, all I have to do now is keep adding stock and stirring it, massaging out all the starch until it's ready. So the rice, that's about 3 minutes away. Now, while that's just finishing off, here I've got some lovely wild mushrooms. I've got the girole, which is really, really nice. I'm just going to tear these up like that, nice and natural looking. One of my favourites, really, really beautiful. And then you've got pied de mouton, sheep's feet mushroom, great flavour and firm. So I'm just going to break those up. Okay. And then here we've got chanterelle, beautiful mushroom, delicious in flavour. So here's the tweak, right? The risotto will be made and finished in the traditional way, right? But with the mushrooms, what I want to do is I want to put them dry in and around this screaming hot griddle pan. And what I want to do is create an environment where you really amplify that nuttiness. And again, you know, down the supermarket you can get lovely bluets, oyster mushrooms, shiitakes, all sorts. Just don't use button mushrooms or I might have to get you. Right, so here's the coup. Risotto is done. You've got a lovely sauce holding it all together. But what I need to do definitely while it's hot is get a knob of butter. I want parmesan. Nice handful of parmesan. Parmesan's really important in risottos. I'll tell you why. Because no matter what flavour you do, bar seafood, all the flavours link together. So I'm going to mix this up, beat that up. And you want it to be oozy. You really want it to be oozy. So you've got to feed it more stock. And I'd say, I guess, around about that much. If you go to any restaurant where the risotto can be put in one of those little metal moulds, then it's too thick. See? Oozy. Lid. Let it chill out. 3 minutes. Take it to the table and then eat it quickly. So while that's off the heat, let's have a little look over here. These mushrooms should be toasted. I'm going to get these mushrooms, I'm going to shake them in here like this. So I've got my toasted mushrooms in there. I'm going to pick some nice herbs. Go in the garden. You can use thyme tips, which are nice and juicy. You can get away with that. And then soft herbs. I love chervil, very, very nice. I've got some parsley here, tarragon. I've got a tiny bit of tarragon here. Let's just get this, roll it up, almost like those ladies in Cuba do with the cigars. Fold it up like that, and then slice it up like that. So just chop it up like this, so most of that into there, leave a bit for garnish. Now, tiny bit of oil. Pinch of salt, and then let's get a lemon. Squeeze about half of that lemon into there and just dress it with your fingers. And that is going to be incredible. So, while these are nice and warm and while the risotto's resting, let's plate it up. Look at that. And you can tell that it's gone nice and smooth and creamy. So, lovely. Just spoon this on. Beautiful risotto. Beautiful, look at that. Look how nice and smooth it is. And then we get a little handful of our beautiful mushrooms. And then we just splay them all over the top like that. And then I get a little knob of butter and I just put that in the middle there. And that'll start to melt. And slowly just give it a tiny, tiny little grate. Look at that. That is a proper risotto. Absolutely delicious, beautiful. Gennaro!